Hello and welcome to Movie Buffs, our show that covers the best films of all time. I'm your host, Shani B. You can find me on all the socials at It's Me, Shani B.
And I'm your other host, Cisco from Misfit Minded Media Reviews. You can follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at Misfit_Minded, on Twitter at Rampage_Misfit, and my website at MisfitMinded.com.
Today we are talking about another film that's turning 10 this year, 2014's Jack Ryan Shadow Recruit. Written by David Koepp and Adam Kozad, directed by Kenneth Branagh, starring Chris Pine, Kevin Costner, Keira Knightley, and Kenneth Branagh. If you haven't seen it, it's based on the Tom Clancy novels, and the story follows Jack Ryan through his first official call to action as a CIA analyst. All right, what do you think? 10 years later, give me your takes.
So yeah, this was a first time watch for me. I had never seen it. I gotta be honest, out the gate, I'm not a huge Jack Ryan person. I just never we'll get into it, but it's just like you know me, like I love Ethan Hunt, I love Bond, I'm into the action, mythos of some of these people, but just Jack Ryan, I just never took for me. I don't know. I've seen a number of these and I could not tell you who Jack Ryan is. And I don't know if that's like a part of the filmmaking and storytelling problem or what, but like I've seen the Harrison Ford ones, which I like.
Same.
I think they're pretty good. Saw the Ben Affleck one. I did not like. Thought that was pretty lame.
Which one is
Um,
his?
the Sum of All Fears with Morgan Freeman is in there as well.
Yes,
Yeah.
I never
Uh,
saw that. I always wondered. I had no
it
idea it
has
was a Jack Ryan movie.
it has a lot of the same problems that I had with this one, which we'll get into. I want to talk about, but so I'm thinking it might just be like even from the source, like the Tom Clancy novels, that this might be an
Yeah.
issue because I keep bumping up against some of the same things, and just as a character, like I'm saying, I couldn't tell you it just seems like an amalgamation of like action hero tropes, and
Yes.
that's what I keep. And for some people like Harrison Ford, he can take those tropes and make it his own. Obviously he's the GOAT. I just saw the Critics' Choice Award. They gave him a Lifetime Achievement Award, and it was. Did you see
Yes.
that?
Do
It was.
charge.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it was amazing. I thought he gave a really touching speech. He got choked up, like he's been doing in a couple of these like recent interviews because he's getting
So
up
sweet.
there, and
Mhm.
I just thought that was a great moment. So shout out to Harrison Ford, the God.
We love
Uh,
you.
but anyways, yeah, I this one was not for me. I feel like I'm gonna be the negative Nancy on this episode, like you were last week on
Someone's got to
Lone
do it.
Survivor. So um, I'm not sure like how deep you want me to get into it before you volleying it back to you, or
I
what do you
mean,
want to do?
I think I actually share your position cuz I really wanted to like this movie especially after last week
Well, you
feeling
had
like,
seen it before,
man,
right? But did you remember it?
I just didn't remember it like at all.
Okay,
I literally didn't remember it at
got you.
all. So many of the little details where it was like, "Oh, wow, this is like connected to a time in history I had no idea it was connected to." Because I guess I'd seen the Harrison Ford ones and I like those enough. I feel like mostly because it's Harrison Ford, not
That's what I'm
because of Jack
saying.
Ryan, to your point.
Hmm.
But I never really associated Jack Ryan in a post 9/11 world. And then this movie reminded me, like, oh, that's what this movie was doing. It was like taking the
The
Jack
Sum of All
Ryan.
Fears does that as
Yes.
well.
Yes.
Very
Yes.
nuclear post 9/11 fears. I mean, obviously it's in the title, Sum of All Fears.
Yes. Yes.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess I never really thought about that because I hadn't seen The Sum of All Fears and I completely forgot what this one was about. But it was an interesting way of like really squeezing in his origin here, where they were like, he's at college when 9/11 happens and he's influenced by it. But it's not for a couple of years until he does this. And then something happens and now he has to like get his back working. Like the first act of this movie was a really interesting smush of a full story because I guess they didn't know if they were or were not going to get franchise out of it. it just didn't feel like how the Harrison Ford ones do, where they're a complete story. Jack Ryan's already who he is, and he's getting to the beginning and the end of this adventure of his, and off we go. I don't know. I feel like this was a weird way to kick that kind of relationship off for
Mhm.
the character for me. So I think it's the character, not the actors, but I have not read the Tom Clancy novels, so I
Yeah.
cannot speak to the writing.
Well, yeah, it's just like you said squished, and I feel like this movie, if I had to pick one word, like the whole thing just feels squished, like that there might have been 20 or 30 minutes cut out of this thing. That just like,
Yeah.
like you said, it's like, oh shit, we're starting off a 9/11. Oh, now we're in a helicopter. Now we're in rehab. And it just keeps going on that pace for like a lot of it, especially
Mhm.
in the third act when it's like, we're on this secret mission to steal this info,
Yeah, he
but
finally
then
does something.
and then they're successful, but not so fast because the bad guys are on their tail. And then Kira Knightley gets kidnapped, and then he gets her back, and then he has to go to New York, and it's just like, holy shit! Like,
Yeah.
it was so fucking much. Like, it just like it doesn't give you any time to breathe, and like I don't know. It's just like, yeah, and when you're this generic with the filmmaking and the action and the characters, you need something. Like, you need something. I just was like, James Bond has that cheeky humor, Britishness to it, at
Yep.
least,
Mhm.
and Mission Impossible, like, we meet some of the team here, but like, do we meet them as people?
Right.
No, we don't. But in Mission Impossible, I know you have Benji, who's a smart guy.
Yep.
Got Ving Rhames, and who's on the comms, and it's like all these characters that have functions and purpose. And the only, I would say, supporting guy we kind of get on the good side is Costner, Kevin
Yeah.
Costner. And
Mhm.
I thought that character was kind of weird too, because like at the beginning he plays like that guy we've seen a million times where it's like, I'm picking you out, be my shadow recruit, and just like
Yeah.
shot very mysteriously, and it's like I'm in the CIA. Yeah, like
Yeah.
and so I'm like, okay, so that's gonna be his it. He's just gonna show up there and then disappear, but then it's like, oh no, he's in the mission.
He's his
Like,
handler per
yeah,
se. Yeah.
but
Yeah,
then
I
he's like
guess,
a
like
sniper, and it's just like every person was like 50 things, and it's like I know it's like very reductive to just have one person do one thing, but then like
but
this is
it's a
what you
bigger
get
world. Yeah.
when you get to this part, and it's like, and especially for Jack Ryan, it's like he's a smart guy, but he's also a Marine, but he's
Yes.
also, he can think of
He's
scenarios, and
very smart.
he's a negotiator, and it's just like, dude, like, what is he? Like, you're making him Jason Bourne when at the beginning he was like a numbers guy, and like that. And
Yes.
this is what I'm talking about for every Jack Ryan movie. I feel like this has been the
I
problem.
feel like except for the Harrison Ford ones, Harrison Ford has this amazing ability to be scared and still really strong. To
Well, The
literally be
Fugitive,
like,
we talked
"Oh,
about that in The
oh."
Fugitive, remember? Like,
Yes.
he has that Richard Kimball-ness where he
Yes.
can flip the switch off and on, and I do think they, um, do enough to, like, establish that, like, he goes to Europe. Like, I like Patriot Games, that's the one that I like
Yeah,
the
Patriot
most.
Games is good.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and so it's like, I remember that, like, he goes to Europe, and then, like, a terrorist attack happens,
Yep.
and that sets everything into motion, and then that's how he gets, like, sucked into the situation. It's not just
Yes.
like, it like I said, this one moves so fast, like, even the relationship dynamics don't really get time to breathe, where it's just like Keira Knight,
Well,
and we can
that
get into that, but
American
that
accent. Fuck.
Yeah, is this what we're gonna
Yeah.
talk about it? Keira Knightley doing an American accent in this?
Yes, yeah. Yeah, before we talk about the performances, I wanna say, to your point about how the story unfolds and the pacing, this is an interesting one because it's like Kenneth Branagh has been directing for a really long time, and I feel like he's so hit or miss for me, and I don't know if it's
So hit
about
or miss.
genre or what, but this one is so interesting because when that franticness is called for, like in the helicopter sequence at the top, I feel like it's really good. It's like very overwhelming. I can't really tell what's happening. And I'm sort of like, whoa, shit.
I
But
don't
then we get into
know.
a really
I
weird rhythm that's way slow, that doesn't match that at all, and we never see that again. We see like different versions of action sequences throughout this movie. Nothing feels consistent. It doesn't even feel like a Kenneth Branagh movie or something.
I thought the helicopter scene was, like, again, like, just so cliche, like, I knew what was gonna
You didn't
happen
love when he was
from
like,
as
"Ah!"
soon as it was like, "You gotta get your buckle on, man." I'm like, "Oh, so he's fucking dead? Like,
Yeah,
that's what's
yeah,
gonna
"Why are you
happen?"
here? This is a
Yeah,
dangerous detail.
I
I
know.
gotta serve." Like
Yeah,
that very cliché. I just feel like the filmmaking portion, that surprised me because that
yeah.
was more action than I was anticipating, but then he didn't repeat it. It wasn't like, "Oh, I'm gonna use this kind of frantic camera every time Jack goes from being in like a chill experience and like kind of schmoozing to something bad happening." And that's the interesting thing is that like Harrison Ford's never schmoozing. You know what I mean? He's like, "Hey guys, respect all around." Oh no. Chris Pine is too smooth. I feel like he's a Jack Ryan who sort of thinks, "I'm cool, I got this." And then in the next second is like, "Oh my god, I'm freaking out. I'm freaking
Yeah.
out."
Well, that's yeah, it's that's the hard part for me is just like they want us to be like, he's I'm out of my element here. He says it at one point. I'm out of
Yes.
my element. And but like every turn he like you said, it goes smooth for him. Like we never see him in any real dire straits like I mean I guess at the hotel where he has the fight with the guy like that was like probably the most in danger he was, but then he like fixes that pretty easily, takes him
Yeah, I
out
mean,
pretty
he barely got
easily.
beat up.
And then even with the Keira Knightley stuff, it's like I thought that whole relationship was so lame. Like accent aside, it's like very one note. Like I think you're cheating, maybe, and he's like, "But I'm not. Let's get married." Like it's just so. It was so like basic and like
Yeah, he was really bad at being
a
a
CIA
CIA
operative.
analyst. Like,
Yes.
yeah, like he was leaving the ticket in his pocket. He had no story for the ticket. It's like, guy, if you've been doing this at all for like 10 years or whatever, because they were like 10 years later at one point, and I
Yeah.
was like, what year is it? We jumped years a bunch. I feel like he should have been more finessed or had a little bit more poise because he was handing information off. That's not something we've seen Harrison Ford do. Harrison Ford's almost always in the wrong place at the wrong time and needing to call upon his affiliation to the agency and work with them. Did you watch the Krasinski show on
I
Amazon? Have you seen
haven't.
any of the show? Yep.
I think that's the
Fuck, I haven't
one.
either.
That's the one, and then there's the one with Sean Connery and Alec Baldwin. I haven't seen that one either.
Oh, which one is that?
Fuck was
Fudge.
what is it called?
Is it The
Hunt for
Hunt
Red
for Red
October.
October? Oh shoot.
Yeah,
I've been wanting to rewatch that randomly, like just been in the mood for a
that's a Jack
naval
Ryan.
film. Okay, shit.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
the
Okay.
other. So besides the show and that, those are the two I haven't. I hear that one's like the best one, if not like one of the best ones. The Hunt for
Okay,
Red
shit. I got to
October.
see that. Yeah, it's just randomly been in my mind lately, so I got to check that out and
Tony Scott. I mean, that's a Tony Scott. Yeah,
low key, we love
maybe.
us some Tony Scott. And also, Alec Baldwin he's having a really hard time right now getting
Yeah,
over
we
this
might want to put that one
accident.
on the shelf. We might want
Oh
to
man.
wait
Oh
for
man.
all
I
that
mean,
to
I
get
ride
worked
for the
out.
poor guy. He's a sweetheart. Yeah.
I know.
He's the meanest sweetheart of all time. But yeah, okay. So you haven't really seen the show and neither have I. I guess I just wonder what is the situation? Because let's see, who Ann Archer, the fabulous Ann Archer, is Harrison Ford's wife in these films. And
John
I was trying
Krasinski is
to
the guy in the
determine
show. So I
if
guess
they're
they're all trying. I guess if you look at all the casting throughout, it's all they are trying to hit on that like desk jockey turned action hero guy because
guy.
they're not who would we associate with just straight action stars that are in
Right.
this
They're not
main
Sly, they're
role.
not Arnold. Hmm.
Yeah. So I give them props for like trying that, but you know what's crazy? I was thinking as I was watching this, Chris Pine did another action movie that I saw that was just as generic as this. I
The
think it's
contractor?
called the yes. I think it was called The
I'm so
Contractor.
sorry.
And it was literally like some of the same stuff of like I think he had back pain in that one or something, and he was a former Marine in that one. And I was like, they can't even get like different action cliches. Like they're recycling the same action cliches with the same action star. And it's like,
It's so
like,
disappointing,
I know.
because the screenwriter for this, he wrote Jurassic Park, like, adapted a great movie that
I didn't
way
even know
and
that.
Carlito's Way and
Yeah,
shit. Like,
that's
David Koepp
crazy.
is kind of a boss. He's done a lot, and so when I first saw that, I was like, "Oh, shit, that's who wrote
Mission
this?"
Impossible makes sense though, because I will
Yes.
say, if I had to pick out one sequence that I thought was, in terms of filmmaking, in terms of style, and what this movie could have been, it was the heist sequence, which was
Yes, with the, like, maze of computer the
very
computer
Mission
maze.
Impossible, like, having to like, you got 2 minutes, Ryan, like hurry it up, and then like, he's typing on the computer like furiously, and
Yep.
and
Yep.
then even Keira Knightley you got in there trying to distract Kenneth
Yes, and
Branagh.
Costner having the scope and, like, watching all the entryways. Yeah, I feel like I the CIA stuff I thought was kind of cool, like, I like the idea of being like, the CIA probably would hire this everyman person to just, like, watch financial records. I feel like some of that stuff felt like it was kind of grounded, it just wasn't quite connected. It wasn't as strong as it could have been in a lot of
Maybe
sequences.
the TV show kind of has enough, like, I feel like maybe I haven't watched it, like we said, but maybe they flesh out more of the stuff, like what we're complaining about, like that we're critiquing here. That like,
Maybe.
you
I
know,
always thought that it took Jack Ryan and made him into something more like Buff because Krasinski got, like, so cut when he started doing Jack Ryan, and so
well,
I
not as
thought, are
much
they
as Jack Reacher. Have you seen that guy?
that guy is enormous. Yes. Yes, I have. Oh my gosh. Yeah, yeah,
Krasinski still has
exactly.
some nerd vibes, even when he's
Yeah,
shredded
he's
now.
the sweetest buff dude
Yeah.
for sure. But he got kind of jacked, and I thought, oh, maybe they're trying to like have Jack Ryan be a little bit more of an action star proper. And I don't know if that's maybe because we did hit a wall where it was like whatever Harrison Ford was doing with that everyman, we haven't found anybody to capture it. So let's see if we can make Ryan just a hard action star.
I do
And I feel
remember
he was
Harrison
on for a
Ford,
while.
like, in some computer offices, though, in those movies too, so it's like, it's a
Yes.
recurring theme with this character that, like, he's an office guy.
Yeah. Well,
He
maybe
works for
that's
the government, he's a government, contractor, or whatever you wanna call it, agent,
yes. Yes. I
um,
mean, maybe that's perfect for Krasinski because he too is associated with an
The
office of
Office.
sorts.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly. It's perfect. Perfect. Cover was that Jim Halpert was always in the CIA.
I'm just imagining, like, looks to camera, like, awkwardly, like
Yeah. Oh, there was a terrorist attack. You know. Yeah. That
Hey Pam, did
is
you get those secret codes I needed? Like
yes. Yes. Dwight has been receiving messages slowly, and that was actually truly a mission.
Dwight's like, "Where's
Yeah.
my gun? Who hid my gun? Come on, guys."
Guys, I need it. I need it right now. I do feel like that's the bummer here is that
Uh,
I was waiting for an extra twist, and this story also felt, like, really straightforward. There wasn't any fun, subverted
oh, this is
expectation
this
of
is AI, write me an action movie
yeah.
machine, like,
Yep.
down to, like, Kenneth Branagh as the Russian villain, like,
Dude, who
do
the
doing
Russian villain who was so, one note and, like,
just
having this
uh
backstory and everything, I was still like, "But this is still nothing."
if you wanna see a better, Kenneth Branagh Russian villain performance, watch Tenet.
Yes.
Because I don't
Yes.
even really like that movie, but Branagh is bringing, like, I feel like he
He
learned
brings it.
from Jack Ryan and was like, "I'm gonna make this, like, a nasty guy this time, like, a straight up
Yep.
just villain, abuser," like, yeah,
Getting it done.
he was a piece of shit in that, and he stands out every time I watch that movie. It's just like, "Oh god, you wanna see this guy." I don't know
Yeah.
what's happening in the movie, but I'm just like, "Man, I hate this guy." Like, that's all I know.
He's got it. Yeah, he's nailing it. Yeah, I mean, like, he was definitely trying to give that type of performance, and, he was doing some acting that would make Darren Aronofsky really proud. but I do feel like there was a weird disconnect between the camera telling the story that was happening and just like looking cool and trying to capture like, oh, this guy's so scary, like I'm going to try to like shoot him in a way to make him scary. And I to your point about the sequences being the strongest pieces, like that heist, I do feel like that's the weird thing about Kenneth Branagh is like in a rhythm, I love how quickly he does things, but when things have to slow down, they get so slow.
Mm. Yeah, and even, like, I thought the son being a part of it, like, his son
Out of
being
nowhere.
like, you're talking about a twist, like, that was, like, the final twist of the movie, but, like, it wasn't even, like, them doing, like, great agent work, like, it was just, like, them in a van being like, "Guys, guys, guys, think, where who would it be? Who would it be?" Like like,
Yes.
improving, they're, like, riffing, and you just see Chris Pine being like, no, no, it wouldn't just be. He wouldn't just send some guy he wouldn't know. It
Yep.
his son. When did his son die? And it's just like all this exposition dump of
And
like,
yep, and that isn't mirrored in the filmmaking. It's
yeah,
just the frantic filmmaking again, not like how the way that when Harrison Ford is like coming to an idea as Jack Ryan, the camera is working from many different angles to help us all get to that idea. And I think maybe that's the only thing that makes a character like Ryan so interesting is we have to go inside rather than watch him portray something the way that like a more action with a capital A star just like muscles through. We have to watch it happen to him. We have to see him have the realization. And Chris Pine's just like all over the place, like so running around and he's in these scenes. And I do feel like his energy just isn't quite a Jack Ryan energy. It's nothing
it's
against
just
him because I love
not.
him so
I
much,
just feel
but
like you need to choose like if you're not a suave Bond type, or if you're not a smart agent type, or you're not an action Jason Bourne type, like what are you? Like you just you have to pick like a
you got to
lane.
try. Yeah, you got to
You
try.
can't try and put 10 different traits into this guy, and unless you're again you're doing long form TV or something like that and you want to flesh
Stretch it.
out this person more or something, like, which again maybe they do that in the show, I don't know, but other than like, but yeah, he just had the most generic, like, yeah, the Kira Knightley stuff was just, I was so out on that, like when she,
Mm,
I was like hoping like, okay, man, maybe they'll go to Paris and like that'll be like a cool backdrop, and they don't even go to Paris. Like they're in Russia the
no, they
time.
don't even really have a kind of chemistry that like makes any of
No,
it make sense to me. Like I know that chemistry is like a hard thing to nail down, but it is
I think
interesting
the
that
accent
they
might
were
have,
paired together.
like, why make her do an Amer like, I just feel like just let her keep her accent, like, she's a charming actress, like,
Mhm.
I'm thinking of, like, her in Pirates and her and Orlando
Yes,
Bloom, they have great chemistry in that.
they
She's not
do.
forced to do an accent that's unnatural to her, like,
Mm.
if you're focusing on trying to do this perfect accent the whole time, that could hold back that natural charisma that you need
Yes.
when you're falling in love with somebody, so I feel like that might have, like, I didn't see the need for it, like, she's a doctor in this whatever hospital, like,
Yeah,
she could
yeah,
be a
his
British
rehab.
doctor that moved here to America, like, who cares?
Yes, many British people go to
Yes.
college in the United States. It is not uncommon.
Yeah, when she first spoke, I was, like, in shock. I It literally hit me like a jolt, like, she's like, "Yeah, I'm a third-year medical student." I was like, "Whoa!"
Yes, yes. And, like, just in such a way where she was, like, throwing it away, just throwing it away.
Yeah.
Her choice of the kind of American woman she was playing
Yeah.
was also so funny.
It was like, it reminded me of like Valley Girl, like Mean Girls type of like
Yeah, yeah.
inflection. I don't know. Like,
Like,
I don't,
yeah, an attempt to be like, "It's just me. I'm, like, cool even though I'm
yeah.
upper middle class, but I'm cool, though. I'm still cool." And that
Also,
did
her
come off really
reaction,
weird.
besides that, like, I just felt like her reaction to this situations were just like not realistic. Like, if you're trying to pin down her realism or something like that, like, it was just like she goes to his hotel to catch him cheating or whatever, right? Finds a
Mhm.
gun. This is all pretty alarming stuff. Like, if you're
Yes.
finding out your partner has a
Yep, really
gun
confusing,
in
a
his
lot to think
line,
about.
so then he comes in the room and she's like, okay, you need to. She basically gives an ultimatum. You need to be honest with me now. At least meet me halfway, or whatever. And then he says, I'm in the CIA, and she's like, thank God, and like gives him a hug, and it's like, I thought you were cheating on me, and I was like, that doesn't seem like the response that I would have. like,
No. I
like
mean, I think
thank
yeah, I
God in
don't
the CIA, like you could die. Like I don't know if that's like
that's
worth.
not great. Bad writing, right? Because like
Yeah.
she also is served such a one-dimensional character,
Oh,
and that's not how
awful.
Anne Archer was. Like
Jealous
when
partner. It was like
y-
jealous partner the whole time, and
well,
then
simple girl. She
yeah.
even when he was like, "What do you have to do next?" She was like, "Eye doctoring is my next subject." She said, "Eye doctoring." What?
Ah!
What? Like, I don't understand, but her character was like most characters in this story were thrown away, and hers was really flat. And I think I love Keira
Well,
Knightley. I feel like she still tried to
her
bring
and
charisma,
her and
but
Kenneth Branagh had more
I
chemistry
was
than her
gonna
and
say
Kirsten.
it was with Brana. Yeah, that's where the connection actually took place. And which was weird because I do
Uh,
feel like Chris Pine's not like one of those action stars that you don't see falling in love. Like, I feel like This Means War, that awesome McG movie that's like a pretty fun kind of action rom com.
I
You
haven't
really
seen it.
definitely see him connect to Reese Witherspoon. Like, she's a rom com person, so she's got a system in place to do that. But he is able to have a kind of chemistry where, like, there's a little vulnerability in him, even though he's like playing a spy.
Well, that's what
And
I mean, like, if you're going to yeah, like, this movie could have used humor, I thought. Like, even, like, those
for him,
moments with
especially.
her and Keira Knightley him and Keira Knightley, like,
Yep.
definitely they could have used some kind of, like, special humor that they have, and they were like, it just needed, like, if you're and if you're not gonna do that and you're playing it straight, like a straight spy thriller, then some of those, like, things that don't make sense for a character to do, that's when they kind of work against you. Like for me personally, because I'm like I'm
Yeah.
trying to read it what you're giving me, and then if
Yeah.
you're giving me the straight spy thriller, and but then these characters aren't making sense, and everything is just like moving so fast that I can't
Yeah.
comprehend it. It's just like then it starts to fall apart,
Because
and
it
it's like
does feel
yeah.
like they like half-assed the idea that maybe Keira Knightley was like a double agent of some kind. She like follows his ass all the way to Moscow. Like, I'm sorry, but I'm not gonna go to Russia for anybody, frankly.
Yeah, like
Certainly
when
not
she
if I'm
tries to say
afraid
like he was
that my
like you
partner's
can
cheating.
what did he say? Like she's like he's like, yeah, you wouldn't like it. She's like, are you kidding me? Russia? Like when
Seriously,
she
yeah.
said that, I was like,
This is not
what?
a real woman.
That's not a vacation spot. Like that's not someplace you'd be excited for. Like when she said
Exactly.
Paris, I was like, okay, yes, that makes sense. Like
Yeah, I thought for
totally.
sure we would go there too, and that was definitely a letdown
That
that we
was a
like
bummer.
then never went there.
That was a bummer. But yeah, and then when you're talking about the double agent thing, I mean, even like I'm saying, like it's ridiculous that they would make her go to this dinner with him. I feel like if this is a real CIA situation, they would never put a civilian in
No,
that position. It doesn't matter if like they were like he's gonna know something's up. Like okay, make some excuse. She got fucking diarrhea or some shit. Like who cares?
yeah, well, no, also
Jet
how
lag.
he doesn't
Like
know who she's going to be, and Gemma Chan is right there. She's in
I
the
was thinking that
van.
too, but I do think his like security did have one line where they were like, "We saw her check into the hotel or something." So they may know what she looks like, but even still, he could have just went by
Shit.
himself. He didn't
That's true.
need he didn't
Yeah.
need her like just make up an excuse like I don't know, like I don't know, make up an excuse. Like I just
Yeah,
feel like
make
that
up an
was
excuse and
ridiculous.
then you keep him occupied while Gemma Chan busts up in there and steals the codes or whatever.
Well, like, he
I
was
guess
acting
like
like he was drunk, like, why not bring Gemma Chan and be like, "This is my side chick, basically, like, I'm cheat" like, you know what I
yeah, my
mean? Something
wife
like
came to catch me cheating.
he's basically acting
Thankfully,
like a dirtbag already, so it's like, what do you're not gonna damage your reputation, especially with Kenneth Branagh, who seems like a bachelor himself, and it's like, they say, like, he loves women, the more married, the better.
which is so good.
I don't know.
I mean, and then perfectly fits into that character display, and like Keira Knightley's able to work opposite of him. I just agree. I think it's like weird how she's got to do this accent and the weird way that she and Ryan are kind of written together it isn't the way that the dynamic he has with his wife in the older movies is. And is she
Yeah,
supposed to be the same? I guess, like, does Jack Ryan have more than one wife or more than one partner in these stories? Like, is it the same wife
no
always, just
clue.
played by different ladies?
I mean, I was just putting it as like you said, like I know Harrison Ford is married in those movies, so I just assume that like this is that girl. But I don't. It could be different. I could be. I mean, I don't know.
Who
But I was just
knows?
assuming that if it's like the same character through multiple books, like you would have the same spouse. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, because Jack Ryan is not like a Bond. He is that average Joe in some
Yeah.
way. But yeah, I guess, Bruce Willis kind of nails the idea of like the average Joe turned like hardcore action star. Jack Ryan is the weird guy in the middle who like doesn't turn hardcore but is still awesome.
I
And
will
yeah,
say too,
that's
though, like
weird.
not to just pile it on this movie, like that is one thing I didn't like about the new Craig Bonds too, is that they tried to like same thing with this one, be so self-serious and make it more of
Yeah.
a Jason Bourne, and like they were missing some of that fun element that I look for in a James Bond movie. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I don't need it to be all out like silly like the Roger Moore Bonds, but like at least give them a gadget or two, or like so, like
Well,
they even
his
it felt like they were like scared to show him sleeping with women at one point, and I'm just
eventually,
like,
yeah.
bro, come
We
on,
got
like it's James Bond here, like.
exactly. We all understand it. And that's actually like what I thought was kind of a cool gift of what they did with Casino Royale, where they were like, Bond is done with that. And
Casino
now he's
Royale is
going to be like
so good.
hurt. And so I
God.
do feel like him having another relationship was fun. But Daniel Craig had that charisma. Like
Yeah.
the way he is in Casino Royale, if he was just allowed to stay that smooth with the ladies,
And
I
him
don't
and
think
Ava
anybody.
Green had crazy chemistry in that. Like we
Yes.
talked about
Oh,
in
I
our
love Ava Green
episode.
so much too.
Yeah, they were great together. So it's like I didn't, I was willing to sacrifice that element because they were so good together. It's like
Yep.
so if you're going to do that, that's all I ask for. Like take me on your journey, but in a good way, in a different way, a compelling way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it just, dude, like in No Time to Die, it was so crazy to me that they had Anna de Armas, and it was like she comes in like a tornado and just takes over the movie, and then after like 15 minutes she's like, bye guys, and I was like,
I'm out.
no.
Exactly,
I was like,
exactly.
bro, this is what I wanted, like more of this, less of the dour shit. Like, oh man, it
Well,
was
I
such
just
a
like
bummer.
the idea that Bond has that romantic thing where like he's in love with a bunch of women because things don't happen. And I feel like in the Pierce Brosnan ones, he sort of has this money penny thing. He's got like this connection to all these women that he works with, but he's never crossed a line with. And that kind of keeps his ability to both have that thing going with women who he's actually hooking up with, but also always have that as a part of his character. And Daniel Craig like didn't get to have that. It was like he's either in love with a woman or he is not, and these beautiful women come around and he doesn't do anything, or
Yeah,
he is now has like a kid. I just feel like they
I
did make
know,
him, they grounded him so hard.
way
And
too
he's supposed to
much.
be a playboy. Yeah.
Yeah, and then Ethan Hunt is like kind of similar too, where he just has like relationships, like very
Yep.
serious relationship guy, and he'll flirt with these hot women that he's surrounded by,
Mhm.
but they never
Yeah, it's only a kiss
explicitly
for the
show.
mission that he ever gives
Yeah,
up.
yeah. And again, I'm fine with that. Like, Tom Cruise is not the most, on-screen romantic guy,
Mhm.
so it's like I think he understands that too. So like he knows like people want to see the action, and I have more chemistry with Val Kilmer than any women that I've ever
Worked
acted
with.
against.
I mean, it doesn't I feel like we
So,
want a little bit of sexy with our danger, no matter what genre
yeah.
we're in, even if there's a lot of men. Like we still just want a little something sexually exciting.
God,
And
it's
I
such a
will
bummer because
say,
Keira Knightley could have done it. Like they could have had.
I
It's
wish she
not.
was a little more of a femme fatale, even if she was on his side, you know?
It's not like that they picked the wrong people. Like they both have charisma. You know what I mean? It's just like I think it was the accent thing. I think
Yeah.
they were, the story was just too truncated, and it's just like
Yeah. Really flat, one
you had
dimensional
the
characters.
pieces, and then even Brana, like like I said, we saw in Tenet he can do a Russian bad guy really
Mhm.
compellingly and really scary, but like here he's just asked to be one note and just didn't work for me. Wasn't I mean, I will say like his opening, like his introduction was pretty funny to like pretty good where like he's getting the inject like the syringe in his arm and
Yes.
then he immediately just like slaps the guy and starts beating him
Yeah, kicking him so hard to be like, this guy doesn't give a shit.
and you don't see his face either. It's like shot from like the back of his head,
Yes,
giving me
acting. I love it.
Pulp Fiction vibes, like Ving Rhames, not showing his face, just showing his arm with the tattoos on it. I thought that was a nice
Yep.
touch. Like, so again, there's some filmmaking stuff that I'll say the other thing that stood out to me too, if I was to give compliments to this movie, the production design, they killed it. Whoever did the sets in this, I thought like at least
It looks good.
it looks good. Like, if you're gonna shoot like these modern buildings inside of rooms, a lot of the time, at least they were like cool to look at. It wasn't like green screen, constantly.
Yeah.
Like they feel lived in. And a lot of the times, the people would comment about the rooms. Like, so I'm like, okay, so the hotel bathroom fight, like that was a whole character in that scene.
Mhm.
Kenneth Branagh's like office, like he had that grenade just sitting there, and then he had the
Yep.
Napoleon painting.
The cool rock wall behind with the secret door.
Yep. So I thought the sets were very like cool spy locations too. But that's as far as I think I can go as far as compliments. I don't know, like I feel like this was just wasted potential, I'll
Mm,
say, and it's not a surprise that they didn't do more Jack Ryans after this. Like with Chris Pine, it probably
yeah.
didn't do well financially. Like it's kind of and I was gonna say too, like it's funny that between Lone Survivor and this one, being like their 10-year anniversaries, like to the week, January is not a very good month for
Yeah.
movies, so it kind of
It's
makes sense to me that like they weren't the best. They aren't being the best so far because we are in the dumpuary month where studios are just like, yeah, we know this
yeah.
movie's not going to do well, so here you
We're gonna put
go.
it here.
Like,
Yeah, and I think they both share having like so much potential, having so many good pieces, but just missing a single kind of thread to really keep it neat.
hmm
And yeah, I think it's like a ripple effect for Jack Ryan where it's just not quite strong enough and then everybody isn't able to be that connected because I also feel like Chris Pine and Costner really never got to do meaningful scenes together where it was like I am asking you to give your life truly, and I am trusting you to keep me alive. Like they never had that interaction where it's like, I need to know you have my back because you're my handler, and vice versa.
yeah, it was like Costner was doing the just like looking out in the distance, like performance, like at all times.
Yep,
Like
yep.
it
Yeah, like
was
I'm so laid back. I just
it
jacked this
wasn't like
dog to
I'm
look
your
normal.
father figure or anything. Like it was just like basically just
Exactly.
like this is a job and we need you. So
Mm-hmm.
like
Yeah. Yeah, it's
so
pretty lonely, but it's
yeah.
just like how it goes. No worries.
I
Yeah.
did like again talking about the location stuff, like the scene where Costner and him were meeting by the waterfalls, or not the waterfall but the fountains,
Yes.
and he had the just like the golden retriever,
Yeah,
and
just
he's like,
jacked the
you
dog.
brought your dog, and he's like, nah, it's on the way on my mission, just took it from somebody, and I just was like, oh,
Exactly.
that's a smart detail that I would never have thought of, that like, because he's like, why else would I be outside? And I'm like, oh, that's a good, yeah, covering your tracks, I was thinking like what else you could do. I was like, you could probably like smoke, but like they don't want to promote smoking in movies anymore, so
Classic.
dog
Yep.
walking, dog walking,
It's
that's
the
the next.
safest. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's the
so then he just,
safest one.
so it's just a funny image of like Costner like sitting cross-legged with this golden retriever next to him, and then Chris Pine like sitting down like with PTSD after killing this person, like shaking his
Yes.
hands.
Yep. Yep. I mean, he
It
really
was just,
tried to bring
yeah,
something honest to
but the
this
tone was
performance.
just so like bizarre, like, you know what I mean, because it's like that's asking for like us to be take him very seriously, but then just like the image of Costner and the dog was like kind of funny.
Yeah,
So it was
Costner
just
being
like
like, "Don't take it so serious, man."
yeah,
Yeah.
so it's just like what do you guys want me to feel in this? Like I don't understand. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, these are two different interpretations of kind of what's going on, and they're happening alongside each other. And I guess that's it too, is that like they didn't quite have the chemistry you want, like that father, that mentorship kind of thing. But I do love that when they finish that interaction, Costner doesn't take the dog. He just leaves it with Chris
He
Pine.
leaves it. Well, he says too, he's like, someone's gonna, wake up tomorrow happy that their dog came back or whatever.
Hmm.
But then when he leaves it, I'm like, is it just gonna go back home? Like what?
Yeah, like Pine's got to take it back. He has no idea where you took it from. Also, I thought it was pretty funny when he was like, the first person I killed was totally a bystander who came up behind me too quickly.
That was
I was
weird
like, what the
too.
fuck? I gotta see that flashback, dude. Come on.
That was weird. Yes, very
Not great.
bizarre.
Not great,
Um,
but
and again, they play the scene where Jack Ryan kills the guy in his hotel. Again, like hit me in a weird place too, because again, I love Bond. I hate to
mhm.
keep making these comparisons, but like they take from these franchises so much.
Yeah, they're all
So like
a similar kind of guy, just slightly different.
this is a staple in Bond movies that like the person that drives him from the airport is always a bad guy or something like that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So like I kind of knew going into it like this guy is going to be bad, and then when they finally reveal it, like um again, it gets played so seriously. Like when he kills him, I was like, okay, are they trying to make like a waterboarding comparison here because he like puts his head underwater
Yeah, he drowns him.
and he drowns him, which I didn't expect either. I thought he was gonna like let up at the last second and like
Same.
and then
He wasn't even like, who do you work for? Like
yeah,
literally nothing.
I was very confused by that choice. Like, okay, he just straight up he didn't like knock him out. He straight up kills him, and then like
Yeah.
they just clean it up like nothing happened, and it was just again some of these choices were just
Real.
weird.
Yeah, yeah. The CIA
Like
does
he
some
wa-
real freaky stuff.
is very pro-American, but like it's not making the CIA look great. I gotta say.
No, no, certainly not the same kind of like worship that we see in a movie like Lone Survivor that's really trying to like honor this
Yeah,
thing. We're looking at, and maybe even Jack is trying to see how the CIA is actually like bad or
yeah.
experiencing it negatively when, he felt such a call to arms after 9/11.
And it's funny too that like in the Sum of All Fears, like they straight up go nuclear war at the end, from what I remember,
Whoa.
and like
Okay.
it's just so funny that the stakes of this one, like, uh, I wrote it down, but like Chris Pine's like, you know what's gonna come next, and they're like, what? He's like, the Second Great Depression, and
That's right. There's
it
going to
was
be
like
another. And
that's the
also,
stakes. Like that's I was like in my head, I was like World War III, and then he goes the Second Great Depression.
exactly, especially because we all know as Americans that we had just come through a legit recession like 5 years earlier.
Before
So
this, yes,
that's
it was
exactly right. We'd already
yeah,
just gone through like what a lot of people thought of as that.
consider,
So
yes.
exactly, to sort of be like
It was very
it's
bizarre.
that. It's like, "Whoa, you missed it. We've already done that. Can't just be that, you know?"
Yeah. I even I don't even with Lone Survivor 2, I saw some, critics being like, this is basically a, Navy sign up video or something like that. And I was like, I don't know. Like when I saw that, we after we finished watching that, I didn't want to sign up for the Navy. Like
Me
fuck
neither.
that.
No way. No, thank you.
There's
I
only
did
one
not.
guy that survived.
Also, just the first 10 minutes when they were showing the real footage, I was like, this is really exciting for these guys, but like, I'm out. I'm already, no thanks.
And
So
then
I don't
same thing
know.
for this. It's like if I don't know if people think that this is a CIA recruitment thing, but like his relationship sucks. This dude's got PTSD.
Yeah, being at
Like
work
he's always like over analyzing shit. Like I'm just like, yeah, it seems like a horrible job that I would not want to have.
sounds terrible. Yeah, I'm not
Yeah.
interested in signing up. Yeah, I guess like there are definitely movies that do it better. To your point, Top Gun is a better example of
Oh
like
my
when the
god.
military looks really awesome. And we did do two movies that sort of show when it doesn't quite look awesome, but is still exciting, is still life and death, is still
Yeah.
all the things that those movies are, except not awesome. That is an
Yeah.
interesting
Well, in
thing
Top
to
Gun, that was a
to
fact that, like, after that movie came out, a lot of people would try to be pilots after that. Like, so
exactly.
that's just true. Like,
But
that's
that
not
story
even a
makes more
theory.
sense. At the end, we're
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, America!"
Yeah.
And the guy is like,
Fuck
"I
yeah.
am, this kind of character." That's not really Jack Ryan is not the everyman the way that a Maverick kind of is.
Dude, someone
Um,
posted the end of Top Gun Maverick on Twitter today, when, Tom Cruise, like, hugs Miles Teller, and it's got, like, the score in the background, and I just was like, "God, we had it so good when that movie
ugh,
came out. That shit was so
it's
good."
so good. I mean, it's a great reminder that, like, the formula for a movie, still works, but it's also a good reminder that, like, it's not easy to nail that formula because this movie and Lone Survivor both had all
And
the
Tom
right
Cruise
pieces.
knows himself. He's had action failures, like, in his career,
Yeah, he's been paying
like,
attention.
so but he's got the formula so down now that it's like, I can't imagine him, doing a misfire, like, every Mission Impossible movie, I'm there opening weekend, Dead Reckoning
Yep.
Part 2, let's go, can't
I gotta
wait.
see how it's gonna end here. I gotta see.
I know. There's rumors that this could be the last one, and
I mean,
I
he's starting to get to a place
yeah,
where it's just sort of like, dude, you don't have to do it. Like, please
right.
be there still.
I
But like,
know.
I don't want to watch you die on film for reals. I really
Yeah.
don't.
But it's just so good. I just don't wanna see him. It's like, I guess how some people feel about Fast and Furious, where it's like, "Yeah, let's keep going." I'm like, that's how I am for Mission
Not
Impossible.
without. Yes.
Like
Yes. But I feel like it's a good reminder that like a character is not always easily picked up even if we like the character because sometimes it was the actor that made that character as
yes.
likable. And I do
Yeah,
think that's like
I hope they don't ever do another Ethan Hunt, because it's like, how do you replace that, man? Like,
exactly. You can try
can't
to find
replace Tom
somebody that
Cruise.
stands alongside of that character, but you can't. Ethan Hunt is Tom Cruise, Dominic Toretto is Vin Diesel. That's all there is to it.
I did hear too, like, speaking of, like, Jack Reacher, because that Tom Cruise played Jack Reacher in the
I
movies,
remember. Yeah, 2
uh,
movies. You got 2
2
out of there.
movies, that the show is a lot better because it's closer to the
The
books than
books?
the
Mm.
movies, like, and that's why that guy that's, like, 6'5" and, like, jacked,
Yeah,
like,
exploding from his own clothes.
that's what Jack Reacher was supposed to be in the books, like, is how he's written, not Tom Cruise.
Not Tom Cruise. I
But
mean,
that's the movies,
I
that's
like
the movies.
exactly. I like Tom Cruise being like, "What if I still try to make something work?" And honestly, I do like the filmmaking of the first Reacher. Like, I know it's unpopular, but I'm a fan of the
Who
first
was
one.
the lady in was it Rosamund Pike?
Rosamund.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
Queen Rose. Yeah.
Who was in the
Yeah,
sequel?
the sequel was Colby Smulders, and the
That's right.
sequel has the same
Yeah.
problem that this one does. It like smushes a movie into the top. It's doing way too much. And yeah, I feel like if the show Reacher works better, then probably the show Jack Ryan works better because these are books or
I
these are like
I heard
characters
good
with a
things
million
about
books.
when, like, Krasinski was first doing it, that, like, it was a good show, so, like, I
I mean,
imagine.
someday when I run out of time, or I mean, run out of shows, I'll
Yeah,
pick that one up. I'll pick that one up.
same. Yeah.
Nice. All right, cool. Yeah, I guess anything else you want to mention before we wrap it up? Any sequences that really stuck out stood out other than like the bathroom, which I totally agree with.
I did like, uh again, this was like a whole separate movie, but like the Kenneth Branagh's son just kept shanking people randomly. I thought that was like
Yes.
every time I was
That
like,
was a
"Oh
cool knife.
shit."
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, and then he just like put it back in his wrist, and again, he had his own movie in America basically going on, that it was just, again, a lot to juggle, where it's but maybe again the show, that's like a whole, you could see where that would be like a whole thread that they could do, where they
Yeah,
have
it
like the
was sort of like he
infiltrators.
has two villains that are after
Mhm.
him, but one we none of us find out about until like the last second.
Yeah, exactly. But that's about it. I mean, for an action movie, I will say this was very light on the action, and in the drama we already talked about how it didn't deliver on that too. So when
No,
you're a two-hander and you don't deliver on both hands, that's not good, not good.
it's true. Yeah, and the same goes for, like, I think the kills too, is that, like, the all the kills in here are just sort of like, the only time they're cool is when all of a sudden it starts to get exciting, and even those are not, like, amazing stunts or something in the kills, they're just kills. This guy is being a spy too, except he pulls no punches and kills everybody. And yeah, we like barely saw Chris Pine have to do more than kill the one guy. He didn't even really fight with anybody else after that.
Yeah.
Um, Barely. But yeah, this was an interesting one to choose, and it's interesting to revisit two movies that are from the same time that both came out in the month of January, and to really look at what happens when we watch a movie that like wasn't a blockbuster or something.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I think, there's some people I know that they only go for the critically acclaimed movies or popular movies, and I do feel for them on some level because you're insulating yourself, and you
Mm,
at a certain point, this could just be me, but at a certain point you don't appreciate good things when you see them anymore because you're
mm,
just like spoiling yourself. And so like even when I watch something that's like bad, like Jack Ryan Shadow Recruit, I learned lessons from it because I'm just like, okay, this is what you don't do. These are some of the mistakes that you
yes.
can run into when you're trying to make an action movie. Like you have a formula down, but you don't do anything that stands out in any significant way compared to
Hmm.
like a Die Hard or something like that, which we've talked
Yes.
about. Or
Well,
um,
everything has to be at the same level. If your
yeah,
performances are really high up, then so does the filmmaking, then so does the writing, then so does the score, then so does the makeup. Everything has to sort of be at the same level together. And I
yeah,
think it's even something as simple as like one or two scenes that aren't that strong in the writing that can create a ripple where one or two scenes aren't so strong in the directing. And then we're just off to the races in this movie, stunting itself because there isn't that cohesiveness.
yeah.
I still don't know where that magic is, but I agree. I love to watch a movie that's like quote unquote bad because it was the best they could do anyway. And there's a lesson in that, I think.
I just was reminded of like the whole marriage subplot of the movie, which
We
again
did
was
the whole
just
dance for him in the cab.
I
Yeah. Yeah. We
know.
did the performance. It's
Is that
true.
the only reason you asked me to marry you so you could tell me you were in the CIA?
I guess. I mean, that was confusing to me because
I
I was also
know.
thinking, like, they're showing me a flashback. Like, he really did ask her and she said no
Yes,
for
I
some
was
reason.
very
What the
confused
hell's
about
going
that
on?
flashback. Like, why
Exactly.
even put it in there if it's not real? Like, it was.
I don't know.
I
I
don't. I
can't
don't
I
get
can't
it.
answer these questions. And you know what? If I ever get to meet Kenneth Branagh, I think rather than talk about Belfast or any of the movies I really admire that he's done, it's going to be Jack Ryan Shadow Recruit that I interrogate him on.
Yes, for Russia. I did this for
Awesome.
Russia.
Yes, it was. Yes. All right. Anything else before we skedaddle out of here?
No, that's it. I know you gotta go.
Okay. Cool. Well, that wraps it up for us. Let's remind the people where they can find us.
Get your fix and follow the show at We Stay Buff on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, and Twitch at The Buffs. Follow me at Misfit Minded on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Blue Sky, on Twitter at Rampage_Misfit, and my website at misfitminded.com. And I did just do an episode for Movie Lovers Unite where we reviewed Last Action Hero. Uh,
Oh, the best. I love that fucking
Much
movie.
better action movie than this one. So you want to hear us
Please.
geek out about Arnold and 90s action movies, definitely check that out.
Awesome. Awesome. Make sure to take us for a ride and subscribe to the podcast on Spotify and Apple. Please leave a review. 5 stars, 5 stars, 5 stars. That's what we're after. And you can follow me on all the socials at It's Me, Shani B. I can't wait to check out that episode.
It was
Thanks.
fun. It was fun.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you next time for another edition of Movie Buffs. Stay buff.